Hello everyone, today we are working on the Wonky Walk Lab. Specifically, we're actually doing the Walk Lab today. We've got to get it set up and then we're going to go and start testing our information. Then tomorrow, or the next video that I have, we're going to go over all of our information and finish up this lab. But we got to start somewhere. So first thing, please put your name at the top. My name is Miss Moradic. Please put your actual name. Then what day this is due and then what hour you have for science class. What we're looking at in this lab, so we're using what we learned in that first chunk of the year, so our science basics like variables, data tables, fair testing, lab safety, and now we are adding that we can measure and calculate speed and acceleration. We're specifically looking at that speed part. So our standards, I can measure and calculate speed and acceleration. I can conduct an experiment scientifically using variables and fair testing procedures. I can use data gathered from an experiment to analyze our findings and come to a scientific conclusion. And I can work safely in a lab following all lab safety procedures. Now, for this lab, we're going to get down to safety. We don't necessarily need to worry about wearing like safety goggles. We're not working with chemicals today. I did have one student once that was like, today's the lab day, we need our goggles. No, we don't. I mean, unless you're going to run into some bugs, you're probably okay. Some things though that you might want to consider is you might want to put some like better shoes on. When I say better shoes, I mean you probably don't want to have like platform high heels on or platform sandals or something you're going to step out of easily shoe-wise. So like something like a tied shoe would be good, or something like if you're wearing like say Crocs or Croc-like shoes, like put the little strap down the back, something like that. But we don't necessarily need to go full on chemical reaction lab. So what we are doing is we're looking at what is the difference in speeds of the following activities. We've got normal walking, hopping, speed walking, and funny walking. Our purpose of this lab is to practice calculating speed. So first we need to make a hypothesis. Make a hypothesis about the relative speeds of the activities from fastest to slowest. So then I think the order from fastest walk to the slowest walk will be take a minute, pause the video, and write these down. So the ones that you're saying is between normal walking, hopping, speed walking, and funny walking. Now, this might be a good time to think about what is your funny walk going to be. When I say funny walk, I'm talking about anything that is like you could do karaoke. You could try and whip in Nene. You could try and do like a bear crawler, where you go on your back and then like spider kind of on your back, like arched down and then like a little spider crawling across. You could do a dance of some sort. Whatever you would like to do as your funny walking, that might influence which one's your fastest versus your slowest. Speed walking, if you note down at the very bottom, it says speed walking is as fast as you can go without jogging or running, meaning one foot is always on the ground at the same time. So right now, pause the video and write those down, fastest to slowest. So now that you're back, what are you doing? So what you need to have for materials. Now, if you're at home, you might not have some of these materials. So I've got a backup, but in general, these would be the things you need to have. Meter stick, or I've got a backup if you don't have a meter stick. If you've got a yardstick, that would be just perfect. A meter stick is about 3 feet long. So if you've got something that is a yardstick that's 3 feet long, if you have a tape measure at your house, like one of those that's retractable, you could use that for this. You need a timer. Now, you could use your Chromebook. You could use your phone. If you have a timer just on its own, you could do that. But you need it to be like seconds. So not like a baking timer, something that you can like have the seconds popping up. A lab notebook, or it's this. Pencil. And then if you're inside, you might need some tape. If you're using it outside, chalk, possibly some sort of marker then to write, just write stuff down on here. So I've got a few different options for that here in just a minute. We'll get to those in, a few seconds. Okay, so independent variable. This is the one thing that I change. What is the one thing I am going to change in this lab? Well, here's what you're going to do. You're going to gather your materials. You're going to make your racetrack. Now, you're going to find a spot that you can make this racetrack. We're going to come back to this, but just so we know for our variables, you're going to have your racetrack. You're going to use that same racetrack for all of your trials. Then you're going to go for it, and you're going to do 4 trials of each of these types of walks, okay? So what is the one thing I'm changing? If I look at my graph on the inside, remember, a dependent variable goes up, the dependent is something we're measuring or observing and goes across the top. What's along the side is our independent variable, and that's the one thing I'm changing. So if we kind of use that, the one thing I'm changing is our types of walks. So what am I measuring? Well, if you saw it when we were here before, we're looking at what's the average speed of those walks. Yes, we're actually going to be getting the time it takes to go a distance, but we're going to be getting the speeds of these different walks. Okay, so what are things we want to keep the same? Each of your walks needs to be the same walk. So when you do your funny walk, you can only have one type of funny walk. So same type, maybe pace would be a good word here, of walk. So if you walk, you just want to use your normal walking for these. Or when you're speed walking, you want to use the same type of speed walk. When you're hopping, you want to do the same type of hopping. If you're going to do like, some people skip, some people literally hop on one leg, some people do the bunny hop with two. Whichever it is, you want the same type or pace of walk. Another thing, so how I was saying, your racetrack might look a little bit different versus if you're in class or outside of class. So we need our same racetrack. And we're going to make that in just a little bit here. So same racetrack. We also probably want to have something that, timing the same way. Maybe if you're at home, got a younger sibling, you could either, or older sibling, you could have them time for you. Idea. Another idea, you could have them do the walks and you could time it. Totally up to you. I mean, I want you to do them, but if you're at home and you've got a younger sibling who has a lot of energy, this might be the lab for them. Your choice. So we want to time the walks the same way. We want the same racetrack. We want the same pace of the walk. Anything else you could think of, we would want to do, because the only thing we want to change is our actual type of walk. If that means you are going to put your hair up and make sure it is up for optimal aerodynamics, great. If you're going to wear your sweatshirt to start the lab and only wear your sweatshirt for the whole lab, great, because you're worried about aerodynamics. If you're going to wear the exact same shoes for the entire lab, that would be important. You want to make sure maybe it's the same time of day, same wind speed, because it can get a little more like windy at certain times. Maybe that's going to impact you. Do you have a flat surface? So if you don't have a flat surface, are you always walking uphill or always walking downhill? Any of those things could impact this test, and we would want to make sure they're the same for our test. So I think we're going to come back to that in just a minute, because we got a few more things just data-wise as we get going here. So once you're done collecting your data, you're going to be coming over here to get this information and writing it into here. When you're recording your data, you just need to write down the time for each one. We don't need to write down our speed yet. We're going to calculate that. So let's make our racetrack. We'll come back to this then, and then you'll have time to work on your lab. So first thing, gather our materials. I have mine. If you need to grab yours, pause the video, go grab these at some point. We need to create our racetrack. We either need to find a spot in the hallway or outside. If you're in class, we're going to do this outside. If you're at home, you're going to need to either find, maybe you've got a nice long sidewalk area. Maybe you have a nice long driveway area. Maybe you have a space in your house that is long enough to do this, or your basement, or your yard. Maybe it's like outside of your house or your apartment or wherever it is that you're living, that you could use that. Sidewalks, there's a nice little hint of what you could use for that. Personally, I grew up in the country, so we didn't have a sidewalk, but we had a grass yard, so we could use that. Where I live right now, I live in an apartment, so I don't really have much of a grass yard. There's a little area I could use, but I could use a sidewalk, and that would work. So it's going to be how it works for you. And we need to make our racetrack, and we want this to be 12 meters. We're either going to, so here's a few things that I've got for you. So a yardstick reminder. So something that's like this, right? 3 feet. 3 feet on me is not quite my height, or the length of my legs, but about mid-hip. If you're going to be going outside, you can use this to measure, or you could use some sidewalk squares if you need either tape to mark off where you're going to be starting and stopping, or if you're going to be outside, maybe use some chalk, or if you have neither of those and you're like, how am I going to do this? Could you just use some pencils or markers? I think yes. So, here's what you could do. If you have a ruler, then measure it, right? I would start either with my chalk if I'm outside. I'd put a little line where it starts, or use some tape and put where my tape is. And then I need to keep going. So there's 1, there's 2, put my marker or tape, 3. You get the gist, right? Do that until you have 12 total. Now, if you're like, well, I don't have a ruler. Remember I said you could use, like if you've got a tape measure, right? You could use that. Or here is the absolute other one you could do. If you walk, your step is about, like if you take a very, very, very long step, it will be about 3 feet-ish. Now here's where the controlled part comes in. Whatever track you make, however you use it, you're going to need to use the same one for each trial, because it matters that it's 12 feet when you're comparing it to other people in the class, but when it's your data, you're comparing it to each, like the speeds to other ones that you got data for. So if you're using the same track, you're still doing okay. So if you have a sidewalk, each sidewalk brick is usually pretty close to 3 feet-ish. Use 12 of those. If you're like, Miss Moradic, I'm with you, where you grew up in the country, we don't have a sidewalk. This is for you. If you don't have a yardstick, you don't have a sidewalk brick, whichever. So I'm going to come from this way, but here we can get 3. So I go 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that's 5. Sorry, my room's not big enough that I can quite do 12. I could go out to the hallway, but I think I might interrupt other people who are maybe also making videos and stuff. However you're going to make it, you need to make it about 12 meters long. So that's 12 yards. If you put that into feet, because you have like an extendable, retractable one, that's 36 feet approximately. Do 12 super long steps would be good. 12 sidewalk blocks, because you want 12 meters, okay? The big thing is, as long as you're using the same track every time, you should be good to go. Now, when you go to test, well, I guess if you're on an uphill or a downhill, if you're on something that's an uphill or downhill, you want to make sure you're always going uphill or always going downhill for all your trials. If it's flat ground and you don't have to worry about that, watch this efficiency. What I'd probably do is take my lab, grab like a notebook or some hard surface, grab my timer. So for me, it would have to be probably my phone, because I don't have a timer otherwise at home. I mean, I've got like a kitchen timer, but that's not going to be helpful. So go to, it's like the clock app on here. You need that stopwatch, right? And it's going to blow your mind, this efficiency. When you go to do this, you have to walk down and back. Did you catch what I just said there? Down and back. 2 trials. So, on lap 1, if you're doing it yourself, just go ahead and go start and then do whatever that walk is. So maybe this is regular walking. When I get to the end, mine is 12 meters long, so it needs to be much longer. I'll stop. Turn around. Oh yeah. Write down your number. Turn around. Look at that. I know. This is absolutely amazing. Your mind is blown. There you have 2 trials. Stop when you get to the end. Turn around. You only have to go up and down that 2 times, well, 4 times total, but each up and down would count as 1. So you need 4 total. Do that for regular walking. Do that for speed walking, for hopping, and for funny walking. You can get teeny tiny bit of exercise today. I think you can handle it though. So on the inside, just so you have this wrap up. So if you need to go back to that to get in a little bit, go for it. Like how to do that, go back, rewatch. If you need, send me or your other science teacher, like Mrs. Carpolinia, a question. Reminder though, you need to record your data. And speed walking is as fast as you can go without running or jogging. One foot needs to be on the ground at all times. No running. That's not part of the lab because we're looking at walks. So on the back here, information you're going to need so that you are ready to go for tomorrow. The distance will be the same for each example. It is 12 meters. I've said that a few times now. The formula to calculate speed that we found out in our speed reading. Oh my goodness, it's like learning about speed actually was important. If you didn't do that reading yet, go do that reading now. That was chapter 1, lesson 2, speed, I think in velocity is it covered. You're going to want to make sure you have that assignment done for this. If you're like, huh? Guess what? Pause. Go do that quick. So, calculate to formulate speed is equal to distance divided by time. How to calculate our average? To get an average, you add up all trials. And then divide by number of trials. So what that might look like, now these are not, like do not take this information because this is not good information. So let's take, for regular walking, it's going to take me 14 seconds, 13 seconds, and 13.5. For hopping, it's going to take me 15, 16. And remember, we can make these even better by, if it's truly at 0, to put the 0. Speed walking, this is going to take me. Funny walking. We're going to do a really slow walk for mine, so it's going to be like. How am I going to get these? I'm going to add up all my trials and divide by 4. So what that looks like for regular walking is 14 plus 13 plus 12 plus 13.5. So I get 52.5. 52.5 divided by 4 gives me 13.12. So I'm just going to go 13.1. And then to get my average speed, it's distance divided by time. So it's 12 divided by 13.1. So I get 0.91. And this one, if you want to go to that second decimal, you can. And that's in meters per second because we use 12 meters. And this took us seconds. Now notice, I did not put seconds anywhere in here. Okay, so coming in tomorrow, you at least need to have this done. Tomorrow, we're going to start with this and complete the rest. If you wanted to finish this bit, that would be good though. Okay, please let your teacher know if you have any questions, if you need anything, because everyone can or should be able to do these. If you want to have a family member do the actual walking, fantastic. If you want to do the walking, fantastic. If your sibling wants to print out and do this all themselves along with you, wonderful. That is just fine. We only need your information, but get that to us, okay? So let your teacher know if you have questions. Otherwise, I'm going to use the F word and say, have some fun, guys. Have a good day. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.